What's up, everybody? Welcome to Peanut Butter Magic. Yeah.
It's the Peanut Butter Magic Show. It's the Peanut Butter Magic Show.
All right, what's up, Sway? How's everything going today?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. How about you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. It's been raining all day. The weather's been beautiful.
Yeah. Oxymoron.
Right? Oh, my goodness.
They actually let school out here today.
Really? For what?
Yeah, flooding.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy out there. Well, it was. I'm sure they'll be going back tomorrow unless it rains again tonight. But yeah, school is out today.
Wow.
Yeah, school's out. So I had the kids running around the crib all crazy all day long. And it's raining, so they had to stay inside and that. You know. But it was cool all in all. It was cool.
Man, I wish that they would let like adults out of work because of bad weather. You know, like when Channel 2 is up there and they're like, this school's closed, that school's closed, like jobs are never on there.
Like McDonald's employees don't show up.
Right. Because like you don't go to school, nobody cares. You don't go to work, you're fired.
Right. Right.
But it flooded.
You know, you can use that as an excuse, I guess depending on where you stay.
Yeah.
But I saw a video this morning of like out in the outskirts of the town where the flooding was really bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like some guy was driving a truck and he was like, I have lifted body, and it was still like up high on his, you know, you could see it out the front of the windshield. It's crazy. And I don't know if you heard, but we had a plane crash here over the weekend.
A plane crash?
Yeah. Allegedly. Now it's a myth because like the post that I saw it on, it was on someone's social media post. And it started out as they was just reporting a plane crash. And then some people was like, it didn't happen, it did happen. Then next thing you know, some pictures surfaced of it. And then the conspiracy theorist was like, that's not the plane crash. And what? So there was an alleged plane crash in Minneapolis out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
That's
so strange. Whose plane was it? Was it like a big jet or was it like a tiny plane?
I want to say it was a private plane, is what I want to say. I mean, if it was a jet, you probably would have heard about it on the news or something.
Yeah.
But I right now can't confirm or deny that, but that's what I heard. That's what I saw. I saw that.
Have you ever seen in the Spring Hill area where Saturn is? Have you ever seen that little like one-seater like glider that's up flying around?
Yeah.
I want one so bad.
I bet you do.
It's just like it's far away, so you can't really see it. But it's somebody's got like a chair with a like a tiny propeller and wings, and they're just up there flying in circles around Saturn.
Yeah.
Man, how cool would that be? Take that to work.
I know a guy that has a private plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I called him when we was doing the getaway video.
Right.
Yeah. He said to fuel that joint was $500.
Ooh.
That's just for fuel. And crazy enough, I grew up with the guy. Like I've known the guy my whole life. Never knew he was in the planes like that.
$500 to fill up the tank?
Yep.
Good grief.
I asked him, I was like, how did you get a plane? He was like, I wanted one, so my wife bought me one for my birthday.
What? Oh my God.
That's what he said.
Keep her.
Right.
Oh my God. Where does she work?
Right. We just got to buy a plane.
Right. Happy birthday. Oh my gosh.
True story, man. True story. True
I
story.
wanted a blue one, damn it.
Ironically enough, blue.
Where do you even buy a plane? That'd be my next question. Like, I see
Plane
car
Max.
dealerships, like RV
Yeah.
planes that I've never seen an airplane lot.
Google that.
Like, where do you test drive them? Like,
I'm gonna Google how to buy a plane.
I would love to just show up at an airport where they just sell planes.
Right.
Be like, yeah, I wanna test drive that one. They're like, do you have a license?
Net jets.
Net jets.
Net jets.
I wonder if
where you buy a
Amazon
plane.
sells planes.
I'm gonna Google that.
Prime, it just shows up at your house in 2 days. Some guy lands it and hops out and gets in a taxi. He's got on an Amazon shirt.
Here you go. Nah, toy airplanes you can buy. Toy. You can buy something that look like real airplanes.
Mm.
Nah.
I'd
Speaking
like
of
to have a
planes.
plane. Speaking of planes. Man, actually tonight I want to talk to you about there's a topic that you brought up in another episode and it got me thinking. And it was one of the episodes, I wish I looked up which number it was, but you had mentioned that a lot of these kids that they look up to their idols and they try to follow along with like whatever their idol is doing.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not even real. Like they're portraying an image that they want to represent them, but it doesn't. And it just got me thinking. And an image doesn't necessarily have to represent what you look like. It can also represent the actions that you take, things that you do. And that image is, it's very important. When I was researching what it takes to create a solid image to sell yourself with as an entertainer, a couple of the websites all made it sound like your image was almost more important than your product. One of the examples that it gave was Nate Bargatze. He's a stand-up comedian. He's actually from the Nashville area.
Okay.
But he's got a very clean act. He tries to make his he tries to present a show that you could bring your family to. And it's created this image that represents who he is as a person. And it kind of goes hand in hand when you talk about Nate Bargatze. Like, you can't help but bring up the type of act that he has and how clean he is compared to some of the other stand-up comedians. Kevin Hart, he's probably the biggest entertainer in the world right now. Outside of his comedy and outside of all the businesses that he somehow has time to be affiliated with, the image that I get from Kevin Hart is that he wants everybody to achieve. Like, even when people try to beef with him online, even when people try to trash him or find all the negative things in his life, he always finds a way to flip it. Yeah. And in flipping it, he promotes something positive. And I know that a lot of what he says, or I don't know, but I know a lot of entertainers, when they get in these situations, they just want to say things to get themselves out of it. But even if he runs his name into the gutter, he tries to, he presents an opportunity to do something positive in the world, at least promote a positive message. And it's that image that carries him through everything. Yeah. And he never walks away from that image. It seems pure, because if you've been following his career for years and years, it's always the same. Yeah. And he happens to have a good image to look up to. But there are a lot of people out there that don't. They represent something that looks cool on the surface, but is probably not very good for anybody that tries to follow along with this image, whether it's real or not. A lot of these kids are ending up dead. You're hearing about them on the news because they're trying to follow some image that they saw on TV when they were a kid. Yeah. So, we used to run around with evolution. That's why I'm wearing the hat today, because there's a lot that goes into the image, not just what you wear, not just what you do, but who you are and what you represent. So I just wanted to, chat about that today.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I think your image matters a great deal. I do. I think the way you present yourself can have, like you said, a positive or a negative impact on how you proceed uh, moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of let the work speak for itself. Uh, firm believer of that, and it depends on the direction that the project is going into. Me personally, I have always made a conscious effort to present a positive image, or at least or what I consider a positive image, even in the darkest of times. Um, I've I've found a way to be in some mainstream situations, if you will, and I continue to be able to put myself in those positions regardless of what I may get into in my personal life. Because you know as well as I do, my personal life has been a motherfucking roller coaster.
Yeah. One of the scary ones that
Right.
goes up really high and then drops real quick. Oh shit!
Right. but in light of all of that, when I present myself to the public, is always well, for the most part, is I'm looking to do something positive. You know, rarely will you find me in the tabloids or in the papers or in the media on some dumb shit. Very rare. There's been a few occasions, but even in those times, like you said with Kevin Hart, I make an effort to flip the narrative. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
that's not really a representation of who I am anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you talked about, I want to say last week, how, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, where you said that you and we both grew up in a home that did the church thing on a regular. So in my earlier days, I struggled with being a rapper. It was a different time than it is now, and although my raps were pretty much Fresh Prince raps back then, the fact that I was rapping had some sort of stigma associated with it in the town. And then once I started to venture away from home and explore opportunities in other places, that always stuck in the back of my mind. How would people at home feel if I'm representing myself a certain way, or what kind of reflection would that have if someone sees me in this light? Is that really who I am um, as a person? The things that I'm talking about on these records. So in the darkest records, I always try to find a silver lining at the end of it. Like I may talk about some woman being strung out on drugs, but my message in the end is don't do drugs.
Right.
Or,
Right.
or something like that. Yeah, I always try to find a way to tie it into, to make it like it's a sitcom or a romantic comedy or a movie or something that
Right.
teaches a lesson, inspires, to make that happen.
I remember MGK was in an interview,
Mhm.
and the interviewer asked him, because he was young. I guess he's still considered young now.
Right.
But when his first album had come out, the interviewer asked him, like, one of those questions, like, how do you sleep at night promoting violence and drug use? And he was like, I don't promote that. I'm telling you my story. And
Right.
my story sucks. And I want you to learn from my story. And that's why I bring it up. It's like, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think an image has to always be good. It can be anything that you want your image to be.
Most certainly.
Like Brian Regan, I listened to an interview with him once, and somebody was like, how have you made a career out of being a clean comedian? And he said, well, I don't think I'm a clean comedian. I've never put a clean comedy on my posters. I just,
Touche.
I don't want you to have to find a babysitter to come to my show.
I see. That's an interesting take.
He's like, if I have kids, I'm a family man. I want everybody to come. I don't want somebody to go, well, I can't go see Brian Regan because he does this kind of show and I'm offended by that, or he talks about these point of views and I can't get on board with that. He said, that's not the purpose of being a comedian. The purpose of being a comedian is to entertain. And if you're cutting off, you're like creating a line of where your customers have to pick a side, then that's just ticket.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
Which is
And
what
that's always.
I was trying to do with the band too, man. Like, they had the type of image that any and everybody could come to the shows at any time. I know they struggle with their own demons in regards to that too. You know what I mean? They wanted to explore other parts of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so young. I remember doing the Cold Black project with Luke, and I didn't say a curse word on the whole record until we did the last song, and I did that on purpose. However, Luke had cursed all the way through the album, and we talked about it prior to us starting the project. We talked about it, and we were off the heels of the first Evolution album, and it was so clean cut. It was so poppy. It was so much of this and so much, and not enough of the hip hop element in it from his perspective, to where he felt like he had some shit to get off his chest. Meanwhile, at that time, I wasn't in that same space that he was, so it was like the yin and the yang a little bit.
Yeah.
In that regard. So, but I wanted him, if I had it my way, I would have kept that image of the pop shit. Even if we wanted to go, because we went a little more raw hip hop on that project, even if we wanted to go that direction, we still could have kept the elements of Evolution into what we were doing and still made it work.
Yeah.
And just been a continuation, because everything after that became the standard of what we did initially in the beginning.
Right.
But that particular project didn't.
You know, speaking of cussing, and I didn't think about this prior to, so I didn't look up the song, but I remember the first time I heard Linkin Park cuss. Mm-hmm. Like, Linkin Park was my favorite band when I was in high school. I saw their show twice. I've got all their albums. Got really sad when Chester committed suicide and we lost the band. Mm-hmm. But I remember, like, their first two albums, like, I could listen to those at home on full blast and no one could say anything. Like, I remember I picked up an Eminem album once, and that was a definite no-no. And right. I remember just playing it full blast. My mom walked in my bedroom, ripped the CD out of the CD player, drove down to the store, and was like, "Give me a refund." They're like, "Ma'am, it's open. We don't give refunds." And she went off and got a refund, and I lost that album.
Slim Shady was a little.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He said some things. You know, but
that first album was a little bit,
I remember Linkin Park. Like, I could play their music anywhere, and I remember I bought an album. It came out. I went home, put it in, played it full blast, listening to every song, and I remember it came through, and then he dropped an F-bomb, and I was like, "This is Linkin Park." Right. And the image changed from that moment on.
Yeah, it can have that effect on you. Yeah. I remember when Beyonce went from Destiny's Child to solo. That was different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was different. The transformation of her and the Jay-Z and that was different.
Yeah. So, you know, and it can ruin an image.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you go too far in the other direction, you know, like, it's over. And what's unfortunate is a lot of artists, they don't, like, their image represents something, whether it's a genre or a style or like a message, and then they flip it and they come out with something totally new, and that's That's not what you were into before,
Right.
and it's gone.
Yep. It's like I was thinking about like when you were talking about how a negative image can still be positive. And the one person that came to my mind was Roddy Piper.
Okay.
He was the man. I don't know how familiar you are with Roddy Piper.
Not at all.
Okay, so he was a wrestler in the back then the WWF, which is now the WWE. And I
Okay.
think he retired out of the WWE. But he
Yeah.
wore the kilt. He wore the kilt, and he was the ultimate bad guy. He was like Hulk Hogan's arch nemesis, the ultimate bad guy. He was the guy that people love to hate,
Mm,
you know, but it made him a superstar
right.
at the same time. And I just remember how like even when he died, you know, you were sad. That at least I was sad when I found out Roddy Piper died. But he was still the guy that you love to hate at
Right.
the same time. And it made him very wealthy. But you didn't hate Roddy Piper. You didn't hate him. But you just very rarely rooted for him, especially when he fought Hulk Hogan.
Right.
But it didn't it worked in his favor to be that guy.
Right.
The arch nemesis.
Right.
You know. And I think in order to hate, you have to love first.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
I never got into wrestling. My friends, no, when I was a kid, that's all my friends down the street watched.
yeah.
And whenever I'd go over to their house, we had to do our own wrestling matches at somebody's
Yeah.
house, tagging each other in and like fake elbow dropping. And, you know, I'm sleeping with your wife. And we're like 12. I just couldn't do it. And then I'd go home all, you know, hyped up and, you know, ready to watch some wrestling. And yeah. Mom comes in, get in there for supper. Ah! No, I'd go home and turn it on, and they'd get to talking, and I was, I'm out. I never could get into it much.
Yeah, I like wrestling in my younger days. I used to collect the big rubber wrestling figures, the big joints. Yeah, I used to collect those. Yeah, I was all about that WWF. All about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know like Bruce Willis, he used to be like when he started out, he was like I guess it was like comedy and you know, the romantic guy in the movie, like and he played that type of role. And then he got cast in Die Hard, and now he's just like an action star. Like it's over. You know, he'll never do anything else.
Woody Harrelson is another one. He was Woody in Cheers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Cheeseball.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, and then he transformed into movies and became like everything.
Right.
Everything. He's played so many different roles, man. But
and he's one of the ones that
see Woody from Cheers every time. I always see that guy. Yeah.
See, I didn't know of him. Like Cheers is before my time.
Right.
It was on. I remember it being on, but I didn't discover Cheers until after Frasier had ended. And by that point, I already knew who Woody Harrelson was. So when I go back and watch those episodes, I'm like, oh my God, it's Woody Harrelson.
Right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
What can he not do?
That's the first thing that I remember him being in. For me, it was Cheers. Yeah.
That was where he got his big start.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you watch Frasier?
Oh, I love Frasier.
Man, Frasier is the shit.
Yeah, man.
Great. I've seen every episode.
Another example of changing your image up is his brother. I've never seen his brother do anything else. I've only seen him in Frasier. But he's got a movie where he plays a killer, and he's having this dinner party at his house. And he plays this like twisted guy who's going to murder everyone that shows up for this party.
I could see that.
It was incredible.
I could see that.
His performance was amazing. And I've only seen him as this wimpy little dude on Frasier. And just to see him go like out left field and nail it, it's like, why don't we get more of this?
Huh. I could see him playing a role like that. I could. And then there's the flip side of that, like Steve Urkel.
Yep.
He was typecast for years and 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 years.
Yep.
It wasn't until like he went on Dancing with the Stars to where he was able to reinvent himself and do that. Alfonso Ribeiro was another one that he was typecast as Carlton for a long time.
They play these characters so well that it's just hard to accept them as anything else.
Yep. Gary Coleman was another one. Arnold from Different Strokes.
Yep.
It was hard for him to get away from that role. It was tough. Yeah.
And Urkel, he even played his normal self on Urkel.
Right.
But they created the Stefan character.
Right.
Where he would get inside the machine and he'd come out and he was handsome and he was smooth talking. And like looking back at that as an adult, I would think that would have helped him get other roles. Because
you would have thought.
Right. Because all we get is Urkel. And then you see him do something else. And it's like, no, I want Urkel. But he gave you Stefan on the show. You can see him play other characters now. But instead, he's never did anything.
But Urkel was already, I guess, so big by the time they had even created Stefan. Because if you remember, before Urkel, that show was just average. It was your average show.
Right.
And he was only supposed to be like a guest appearance, a guest star, or whatever. Like he wasn't supposed to be a part of the ensemble initially.
Right.
And then they created the show around him and did that.
Yep.
Now you see him in more stuff, but back then, it was hard to get away from it. And I just recently saw him he said he would never put on the Urkel clothes again. And I recently saw him in a picture with Snoop Dogg, dressed in his Urkel gear.
Oh, gosh.
Promoting a line of weed called Purple Urkel.
Oh, that's excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Purple Urkel.
And I don't understand why people would shy away from those images that made them who they are. I don't understand that. What's so wrong about being Steve Urkel? Or Pee Wee Herman? Or what's the guy they modeled Pee Wee Herman after? I forget his name, but the guy that had the thing in his hair that went up from the 70s.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I can't think of his name. But what's wrong with being those Andy Kaufman? What's wrong with being those people?
I don't know, because you like with the Urkel character, that's clearly not who he is.
Right.
And I think that everybody knows that that's not who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But as a performer, you want to play a character. Like, that's a character right there. You have to transform yourself into that Urkel role.
Yep.
Like, everybody loves it. Why would you throw it away?
And it should be a testament to their ability to move people.
Oh, yeah.
If they can convince you so much to where that's who they really are.
Yeah.
That should be, to their skill set.
Yep. And a lot of these actors, like the guys that are on the Avengers, like in the Marvel movies, like they play this big super action hero and they got the big muscles and, they're jumping through explosions and saving the damsel in distress or whatever. And then those contracts end. And then now it's time to go do something else. Well, as a fan, I'm used to seeing you in action movies. Like, that's what I've been watching for the last 10 years. Is I've watched you be this hero. You don't have to put the costume on anymore. But I would assume that other studios are coming up to you and going, hey, you were in these billion-dollar franchises. Here's another action movie for you.
Right.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Unless you just hate making action movies. Like, why would you push that to the side? Because then they go to do these big heartfelt scripts where they can try to show off and expand and show you all these skills that, maybe we didn't see in these action movies. And I understand if you want to throw some of those in. Everybody wants a tearjerker every once in a while. But if you've been killing it for 10 years doing action movies and then somebody else comes along with a brand new action movie, why would you say no?
Right. I agree.
This is your image. This is what I see you as. This is what I expect. And as a fan who's going to pay money, you're going to be over here crying because your mom died in the movie and that's what it's about. I don't want to see that.
No. It's like Kevin Hart's last movie. He tried to show us that he had range. And I
Yes.
will say, Kevin Hart's last movie was pretty good. But I want to see funny Kevin.
Right.
I just do. But that's not to say that he didn't do a great job.
Sure.
What about your image?
Kevin Hart's very talented. He's very talented.
Man. Yeah. And like you say, he puts other people on.
Right.
He finds talent and puts them, gets them in a position where they could win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was asking, what about your image? What image do you like to put out to the universe? And how does that reflect in your art?
Well, and so that was something else that I wanted to bring up today was creating your own image. I've kind of struggled with that over the years as what kind of image I want to portray. When I was in college, I made my first short film, and I cuss all the time
No
in
doubt.
conversation. I like things that different generations would find offensive. I like things that maybe wouldn't make it on national television, but it may be because it's too raunchy, but it may end up in a theater somewhere.
Right.
Like I enjoy all of these kinds of things, but I don't know that I want that type of humor or dialogue in the films that I make. And I've been struggling to find out where that line is. When I was in college and I made this movie and I cast this guy and I had cussing in the script, and we showed up to shoot and he didn't say anything prior to, and we show up to shoot on day one and he was like, can I replace this word with something else? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, I just don't want to say, and it was just damn, like, damn, what does that matter? And he was like, I just don't want to say, I don't want to say this like in a movie, could I just say dang, or could I like restructure the sentence or something? And I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just like, yeah, I don't care, whatever.
Right.
And we rolled and he changed the sentence around and everything was fine. And it got to the end of the movie and production's finished. We're in the editing lab and we're putting the film together. And there was no cussing in the film. We've got a murder scene where someone gets hit with a shovel. And I wanted to get like a brutal kill from the guy just out of anger. I wanted there to be blood all over the shovel. We didn't have the funding, obviously, to build a head and crush it in.
Right.
But there were things that we could have done in production to at least show you what was happening. And during production, we didn't do any of that. We left all that out. And we get to the final product, and the movie's done. And we showed it to our class. We rented out a little theater so all the students could show all their films off. And we were watching the movie, and there was nothing offensive whatsoever in any of the films. Nobody did anything questionable. Everybody was pretty straight with their stories.
Right.
And I left the theater really surprised by that, because when I go to the movies, like people are dropping F-bombs left and right, and people are getting shot, their faces are blowing up, and you're like, like, well, that's crazy. But none of that. No one did any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of stuck with me. I've not written anything that includes any of that stuff. And to the point that there are like movies and TV shows that I'll watch and the stories kind of sucks. The dialogue kind of sucks. But then there's like this naked chick and she takes her clothes off. And when you leave the movie, like, what'd you think of that movie? You're like, the movie kind of sucked, but that one scene, that was the shit, man. I loved that, And as I have these conversations and think about these examples, I just have chosen to completely leave it out of my scripts. And I've started to create this image, I feel like anyways, that I don't have to use it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using it, but I don't use it because when I upload it to YouTube or I share it with somebody at work, or if I'm just out and we're talking about it, there's never anything where someone's going to come up to me and go, "Hey, can you like turn it down a little bit? That's really offensive." You know,
Yeah.
like when I was in college, Dexter was out, and I remember sitting in the cafeteria, and Dexter's an incredible show.
Right.
And I'm sitting in the cafeteria, I'm eating my lunch. He's murdering someone. There's blood everywhere. Next scene, he's banging some chick. He's like huddled up over my laptop so that people don't think I'm watching porn in the cafeteria. Like I've just decided to exclude all that from my scripts. So, and it's not, and it's I'm kind of stealing from the comedian that I mentioned. You know, it's not that I want to be clean. I'm not clean.
Right.
But I don't want to exclude that market. You know what I mean? And so that
makes sense. I think I'm the same way. I really do. I'm very conscious about the shit that I put out there. And I'm not a clean person either. Now, I don't rob banks and shit.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? But
we don't tell anyone about
it. Right, exactly. but at the same time, you know, I'm a man.
Right.
But that I'm very conscious about the stuff that I put out there as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to exclude people.
Right.
I did a show when I was a teenager at one of the elementary schools out here. We had booked the school, booked the gym. It was our show, and it was on a weekend, Saturday night. We booked the gym. They gave us the gym to do a concert. And we were young kids. We were teenagers. And we had one song that we did where it was just raunchy, like R. Kelly raunchy. You know what I mean? So we were all a part of this youth organization where some adults just kind of took time out with the young people, and we met once or twice a week, and we talked about things that plagued us, and then they gave us snacks, and then we got a chance to hang out and mingle with each other. Wasn't church related. It was just a lady that decided that that's what she wanted to do. So she heard about us doing this concert, and she decides to come. Now, we had already planned that we were going to do this record, but we didn't know that she was coming to the show.
Right.
So she pops up on us. Now, it's a gym full of kids. You know what I mean? The only security we had was the janitor, and the rest was all kids. So she comes in and she sits in the very back seat, and it's time to do this record is coming up. Now, her son is on the bill too. And he's telling us, please don't do this song, man. My mama's he was like, please, man, don't do this song, man. My mama's sitting out in the audience. Don't do this record. Don't do this record. And we were like, nobody told her to come. You know? You know, she chose to do that. You know what I mean? So we were determined to do this record. So we get on stage, record comes on. Not only did we do the record, we took our shirts off. We gyrated. We gyrating on the little young chicks out there, and they screaming in the gym and this, that, and another. And this guy is just super upset. So I think that experience is probably the reason why I am self-conscious about how I'm presented to the public like that, because that was an instance to where it was kind of like liberation, I guess, to like, we want to do what the fuck we want to do. But at the same time, it was like, maybe we should have thought that through a little better.
Yeah.
At the same time. So in order to avoid that now, you know, I kind of just keep it clean. But sometimes I played in some CD nightclubs, or I played in some hip hop spots in some of the grimiest areas in New York City. And when in Rome, You do as the
That's right.
Romans do.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? You know, sometimes somebody need their head bust every now and again.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, there's always the opportunity to rebrand.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
like when Boeing had that issue a couple years ago. I remember we got on a Boeing a couple years later, maybe a year later, and the flight attendant was walking around telling everybody on the plane that this is not one of those new models.
hell no.
Yeah, because if you pull out the card from the seat, it's a
Mhm.
Boeing like flyer and or brochure, and it's
I
telling you all
see.
the different planes. And the
Mhm.
brand new one was on there, and they were promoting it. And the lady came by and she was like, "We're not on one of these kind of planes, like whatever the number was." She's like, "We're actually on this one. It's been around for about 10 years." It's like, okay,
Right.
thank
If I
you.
wasn't scared before.
Right. I didn't even know this was a Boeing plane.
Right.
I would have blamed Delta if something happened. Like,
Right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
You know, but that it made me wonder sitting there, like, how many people get on this plane and are like, excuse me, is this one of the new Boeing 7 whatever? Is like, can we get a different plane over here? I don't want to die today. You know, but Boeing's huge. They're
Yeah.
all over the world. Like, they've
Mhm.
got contracts with the biggest companies. You know, they have to rebrand.
Yeah.
And how do you gain that trust back?
I would say one way is dumping a whole bunch of money into some communities and shit.
Oh, that's what they do.
Without a doubt.
That's what all of them do.
Because Bowen's a nice person.
Right.
They gave us $100 million.
Right.
Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
Die, motherfucker, die.
Right.
All good.
Good luck.
All right.
There's a check.
Yep.
Well, 200 people died today, and Boeing wrote a check to, Red Cross.
Right. They ain't so bad. They ain't so bad.
It wasn't their fault.
Yeah. And we got blood out the deal too.
Right. Right.
Shit. But that's what happened. They have an image to protect.
Yep.
They do. They have a brand that they have to protect.
Yep. And that's one of those things, like the cancel culture
Yeah.
has made me really aware of people's image. When you do something, and I'm not here to call anyone out or talk about any of their business, but
Right.
like, things get brought to your attention, and even if it's the smallest thing, if the Twitter committee is talking about it and they spend a whole day sharing it with the world, you're going to look at that person a little bit differently,
Yeah.
even if it isn't as bad as maybe some of the other ones are.
Oh yeah.
But your image can be destroyed in a day.
Mhm.
And how do you rebuild and start over again when the whole
On
world
some
is
bullshit
hating you,
too. On
especially
some
if it's
bullshit.
on some bullshit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's got to be tough.
yeah.
It's got to be tough.
There's so many things that you have to be conscious of just to be in this business.
Yeah.
Like everything's coming from all angles.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's something you said 20 years ago that destroyed you, or a bad choice that you made last night, like your image can be destroyed.
Yep.
You can just be a country singer and go into the studio and record a rock song, and for whatever reason, everyone hates you now. They refuse to listen to your rock and roll music. Like, what?
It happens far too often.
Like, I brought up MGK earlier because I've got a friend. MGK's doing like some punk music thing now,
Right.
and some of it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it a couple days ago, and I was just like, "Hey, I heard MGK's got a new song that he dropped. Have you heard it yet?" And he's like, "Yeah, when he goes back to rapping, I'll start listening again." Like, oh my gosh. And he's completely changed his image. Like, he
Right.
went from this like bad boy rap star to now he's this bad boy like rock and roll kid.
Yeah.
And all his clothes, all the stuff that he's doing, he's trying to live up to that, sex, drugs, and rock and roll image.
But see, some
and
people
it's
can
changed.
see through that too. You know what I mean? They can see through it. Like,
Sure.
I look at Justin Bieber. Like, now Justin is starting to like calm down, I guess.
Right.
You know what I mean, as far as that's concerned. But when he was trying to be the bad boy or whatever, like, people saw through that facade.
Yeah.
They did. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that he isn't a bad boy, but you know, we see you out here in these streets.
Right.
So, you know, it is what it is. And I like Justin Bieber. I'm a fan of musically. The kid is nice. Let me tell you.
Oh, he's talented for sure.
Without question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I rock to his joints. He's good at what he does. And I like the direction that he's going into these days.
Sure. He's growing.
Yeah. And you can hear it in the records too.
Yeah.
And that's how staying independent, also to bring it back to tarnishing your image. Being independent can help in that way too. Because then you owe nobody nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, you don't owe an apology for some dumb shit that you didn't do because Universal told you had to.
Right.
You can stand on your own merit and your own morals. And I also firmly believe too that if someone says something and stands on it, they get a lot more respect.
Right.
You know, when you start to backslide, when cancel culture begins.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to be ignorant and not know. You know, everybody's ignorant about something.
Sure.
But it's when you know, when you with the bullshit.
You know, like My Chemical Romance. I went through an emo phase.
Oh, you did?
When I was younger. Yeah, like all the music I listened to was just that I mean, it'd be classified as emo music, you know. And My Chemical Romance was like the highlight of that era in my life. Like I loved their music. And I found out years later there was no more My Chemical Romance songs. And it was like, what happened to this band? Like, where did they go? And the way that they explained it is that whatever label they were assigned to said, look, this is what's hot right now. This is the kind of music that you're going to make. And so they developed this image of what their band represented. And they wrote the songs and they played them and they had videos and they toured. And once that contractual obligation ended, they bounced because that's not who they were. And
yeah, that happens too. Yeah.
In several interviews, individually, people have said, hey, when's the band going to get back together? When are we going to get some more songs? And they're like, I mean, we don't make that kind of music.
That's interesting.
So if they were to hit the road again, I mean, what kind of songs would they even make?
Right. That's a good question. They got this thing going on right now. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Versus.
I have heard of it, but I've not been paying attention to it.
Okay. So Versus is, as you know, they get two artists from, well, they're legends, mostly.
Yeah.
Up until this point. They've gotten two legends that have been head to head at some point in their careers to go up against each other in these verses. Some have been very cordial. Some have been very competitive, but they've all been in fun.
Okay.
So the last one that I watched was the versus Ja Rule versus Fat Joe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So which, in my opinion, Fat Joe just does not have enough hits to box with Ja Rule, first and foremost.
Okay.
Which, and he displayed that in the verses that happened. But in any event, Fat Joe is very low maintenance most times as far as a hip hop artist is concerned. He's highly respected. He's one of the first Latin rap artists to like ever go big. You know what I mean? Not the biggest Latin rap artist that ever did it.
Right.
Let's say that. Okay. So came out in the early 90s. Been in the game for a long time. He's had working relationships with a ton of people. One of his most notable, Big Pun, and right now, Remy Ma. So have this versus against Ja Rule, who was part of Murder Inc., Irv Gotti, Ashanti, Lloyd, that whole camp. They do this versus. So Ja Rule is kind of murdering Fat Joe at this point. So Fat Joe brings out Remy Ma as a feature, okay? And then Ja goes in, says a couple things like, yeah, you got to get Remy to come save you and this, that, and another, blah, blah, blah. So then Fat Joe proceeds to fire shots like you got dope head bitches and hoes that can't even pay their bills or some dumb shit like that. Now, the two women that came out and featured in these verses with Ja Rule were Ashanti and Lil Mo. Okay. Lil Mo has had her fair share of issues. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? But she's still a legend in the game. She's still a legend. And Joe just came out and was on these bitches and hoes, and he's featured both of these artists on some of his records. Both of them. Now, he didn't directly call Lil Mo and or Ashanti bitches and hoes and broke and dope heads. But them were the only two bitches and hoes, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know? So Joe has been catching heat as a result of his decision. Now, after that, he gets on Twitter to issue an apology. And his apology stated somewhere along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, that I'm sorry if I offended anyone. I'm apologizing. I love Mo and I love Ashanti, and it was Vita. I forget Vita's last name, but she was a part of that too. In the apology, he used the word if. You know you offended some people with the bullshit that came out of your mouth, Jack. Like, yeah. So he's catching some heat, needless to say. He's catching some heat as a result of that. And stuff like that can tarnish, have an effect on your image,
Oh yeah.
because even though he's a legend, he don't get a pass
Right.
for that.
Right.
So,
Like during that whole free Britney stuff that was going around the internet for a while. I guess there's a documentary that kind of displays what her life has been like.
yeah, I saw it.
And I guess the Twitter committee went after Justin Timberlake because
did.
his rise to fame pretty much came from him writing songs about their breakup.
Yep.
That first album that put him on the map as a solo artist, he was publicly going through a separation with her.
Right.
So all those songs, and as demonstrated in the videos over the years, appear to be a direct, influence from that. And their comments was that, you got rich and famous off of this. Meanwhile, Britney's career went in the trash can, and you kind of forced people to side with you and shit on her, basically, because of how you said she treated you. And to connect it to the story that you just gave, is that he then had to get on Twitter and say, hey, everybody, I'm, so sorry that I did this, and, I'm going to grow to be a better person or whatever. And like, if you're doing things online like that and people are coming after you for it, it kind of ruins your image for me when you just fold and go,
Right.
oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're right. What was I
yeah.
thinking?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you apologize for whatever is going on for the last 20 years? That means that it didn't affect you the same way that it affected other people. So you're just trying to, give them what they want so that they'll continue to fund whatever you're doing.
Why apologize at all?
Yeah. Well, that too. Like, you said it,
Right.
Like,
right.
if you want to apologize, call them on the phone and apologize.
yeah.
I don't need to hear your apology.
No. That was his way of dealing with whatever he was dealing with. Okay. Britney was just as big, if not a huger artist than he was.
Right.
The race was fair
I
in that
agree.
regard. You know what I
agree.
mean? She could have done something as well. But that's art for you.
Yep.
I don't think he should apologize. Not publicly. I I don't know.
Well, and all these people that are upset and want to get online and make comments about it. You are the same assholes that were singing along with his song when they
Right.
came on the radio. Why didn't you give a shit
Mhm.
then?
Yep.
Why weren't you like, oh, no, be nicer to Britney? Like, now that you see that her life has ended up where it's ended up, which
Yep.
may or may not be a direct, response to those songs. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you didn't care then. Why you care now? Because it's the hit thing to do. Everybody's
Yeah.
apologizing.
Yep. You are
You
right.
know?
I don't know. I can't. I won't speak on whether what he did was right or wrong. I can't
Sure.
say as a songwriter, we deal with shit through our songs, and sometimes, like right now, life is going decent for me. So it's hard to write.
Right.
When I'm going through a storm, it's easy. It's easy. It's right there in front of you.
Right.
So, my pain, your entertainment.
Yep.
So who the fuck know? I don't know. I'm not gonna give an opinion on whether or not he was right or wrong in doing what he did. I understand from an artistic standpoint
That's
of
right.
why it went there. They made their relationship public.
Yep.
They did.
Because every song is written about someone.
Mhm.
And whatever your favorite breakup song is, someone got dumped and
Yep.
someone's feelings got hurt. Why aren't you calling up that artist and going,
Right.
hey, who is this about so that I can demand that you apologize?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't pick and choose. Just shut up. It's a song.
I'm
You
telling
happen to
you.
know who it's about.
Right.
Right. Keep
Now,
your personal life out of the public. Problem solved.
But I hate that Britney went through what she went through
Of course.
from a mental standpoint.
Of course.
But as far as Justin Timberlake, I don't blame him for what the shit she going through.
But it could have ruined his image.
Could have.
I know he's been posting studio pictures for the last couple of years, so
Yeah.
there's apparently an album in the works,
Okay.
and
We
it's
need one.
unfortunate that, of course, but it's
Mhm.
unfortunate that happened because it could have hindered the release of his album,
Yeah.
depending on the direction that it went. Now, it doesn't sound like anything outside of what we've been told happened, so I don't think that he's in any trouble as far as that goes. And he gave his little apology or whatever, so the whole world's forgotten about it now. But an
He
image
also
could have been
apologized
ruined.
about the Janet Jackson fiasco as well.
All that got wrapped in the same thing. Like
Mhm.
everybody attacked him for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he purposely like grabbed her shirt and ripped it off, I don't know, but I don't know why that would have. I also don't understand why her image would have been ruined from that. Like
She showed
people
a
get
50-year-old
naked on
titty
TV.
on
Yeah, but people.
the Super Bowl.
I know, but did they do that on purpose? Wasn't that an accident?
Yeah, but it's still a 50-year-old titty.
But it
On
wasn't a
the Super
bad
Bowl.
50-year-old titty. I remember it had that. I watched it. I remember it, and
Right.
it had that ring on it. And I was like,
Mhm.
"What the hell is that?" And it wasn't until like the next day when someone was like, "Do you know Janet Jackson's bare boob was on TV?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it looked weird." They're like, "Well, it had jewelry on it." I was like, "Oh." But because of that situation, live no longer is live.
Right.
Because
Right.
of that particular incident, there is now a delay so that at any point in time when something crazy happens, you can cut the feed and you don't have to do that again. Which is crazy that they weren't doing that already,
Right. Right.
But I still don't understand why she suffered from that, like
Did she
especially
suffer?
if it. Well, once again, the Twitter committee made it sound like she did. I didn't do any research on it, so I have no idea. But I mean,
I don't ever remember Janet Jackson missing a step. Just to keep it
Janet
real.
Jackson.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? That's Mike's little sister. Tito's little sister and shit. That's Joe's daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, Jermaine and shit. Like, who the fuck gonna know? No. Even the sisters that nobody really talks about still famous and shit.
Right.
So, Yeah. One of them doing psychic readings, and the other one, I don't know what the fuck she doing.
Really?
Yeah. Well, she used to. One of them used to do psychic readings and shit on TV, like Miss Cleo.
That's interesting.
like Sylvester Stallone's mom. She's one of them.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think your image is important, man. I think it takes a lot to I think that's something that you need to think about. Like when you're forming, I mean, everything that we do as an artist is a product. We sell it. And I think it's important to keep your image in mind. You want to stay consistent. You know, if as a band, if you had 4 albums and every album was completely different, your image becomes inconsistent.
Right.
You know, if you're wearing all black and you got, you know, your fingernails painted, and then the next album you're wearing Abercrombie and you got bleached hair come to the side, like, I'm so lost on who you are as an artist that even if the music's great, that image is kind of hindered how I'm going to take it in.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, I remember when we were doing Evolution, we had talked about that. The second album took like 100 years to come out.
Yeah.
But when it was in development, I remember we had a meeting, and it was either at your old house or at Josh's house. I don't remember which, but we were trying to come up with what our image is going to be. Like, we did the album, it was great, everybody loved it. It's time to move on to phase 2. And we were talking about the pictures, and we had taken a lot of photos, and everyone's wearing different things. And that was where my understanding of where the jerseys came from, was that it gave us an image. It gave us something to show up as. Like, it was a way that if we all showed up wearing, whether it was the same jersey or different jerseys, if we were communicating about what we wore, then it made us more of a
Unified.
unity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was where this hat came from. That was why I wore it today, because I remember when Josh brought everybody the hats, so that we always had, there was always something in our outfit that made us look like a team.
Yeah.
We opened that door of communication because we realized the importance that was behind it.
Oh yeah. We had done a show to where someone had mentioned, we had all dressed different, and someone had mentioned that we didn't look like a band. You know what I mean? To where, like, we all had our own different styles going on. And in that particular show, I remember someone saying to me, y'all don't look unified.
Yeah.
You didn't look like a band. So it was important for us to look the part. Important.
Right.
It was a part of who we were, as, you know, in regards to that. Yeah. And protect your image too. Protect it with everything that you have.
Yep. Stand by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even if people don't agree with it.
Yep.
It's your image. It's who you are. You know?
Mhm.
Outside of the product that you display. Like, we live in a social world, right? So people don't just know your face anymore. They know your birthday. They know your favorite color. If you got a dog, they know its name. Like, it's crazy. Like, I feel like an image is now more important than ever, because your life is no longer private. Like, everyone's public. Everyone, even people that aren't famous, their lives are public. You know? I post a lot of pictures with ice cream, and it's usually bourbon and honey from this craft ice cream place here in Lexington. It's delicious. And friends of mine now know what my favorite flavor is, and I don't even need ice cream with them. I just pick it up because I see it.
Right.
And it's like, hey, you want to go get ice cream after dinner? I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. What do you want, bourbon and honey? Maybe.
Like, you put in my closet, bro. Like,
right. Stay out of my freezer, man.
Absolutely, man. I mean, are you stalking me and shit?
Yeah. But it's that image.
Yep.
It's that image. Now every time we do anything with this group of people, like, we got to get Brandon ice cream. I mean, I'm not going to complain, but really?
Milk it. No pun intended.
Let's go. So yeah, that image is important.
Yes. All in all, you know what I mean? Whether you're the one that everybody loves, or in my case, the one that everybody loves to hate.
That's true.
You know, you got to protect it at all costs. Got to protect it at all costs, man. Don't let no one try to tarnish your image. Even if it means busting a couple of heads. You got to do what you got to do. Last words, boss.
I think it's just important to discover who you are. I don't think that I really started to create an image that I feel like truly represents myself until I finally grew up and figured out who I was. And in doing so, my work, I hope, speaks for itself. And I hope that there is a consistent image out there because I've tried to stick by it. You know, and it's become second nature. It's not something I have to think about anymore. It's all part of the package. It's just the way that it is. And I think that's important, you know. Some people it rubs the wrong way, and some people they look forward to it, but it's who I am. And I think that it's important for people to stick to that. Figure out who you are and do it.
Beautiful.
Let that be your image. And like you said, your art will speak for itself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll see you guys next time where Mr. Diggs over here is going to be hosting.
That's right.
All right.
Make it shake.
Y'all take care.
Right.
It's the peanut butter magic.